Why is everyone at the back?
Bad habit in high school.
Can you guys come up? It's going to be a real small group type stuff, so just come on. Not exactly sure what you guys want, okay? Phyllis asked me to do this the last minute. I tell you a little bit about my background and what my goals are today, but we can change it depending on what you're interested in, okay? So why don't we just kind of start off? I know you guys all got your computers up and you're doing stuff, but why don't we just start off? Let's see, what do you guys want to do? Is there anybody interested in going into medicine in the room? Okay. More like business management stuff? What about more like pharma, med device, that kind of thing? And most freshmen, what year are you guys? All right, great. All right, so let me pull this up, and we'll start off with this. And if you guys have any questions, we can sort of talk a little bit more about any specific things. Make this a show because I'm back.
If you go to slideshow.
There we go. All right. So everyone talks about innovation. One of the main reasons to be here at Stanford is innovation, because there's a lot of really cool stuff that comes out of here. But what I want to talk to you guys a little bit about is finding sort of where you fit in best. And I think to have a bunch of people who want to do management and a bunch of people who want to do medicine, it gives you a good idea that there's various places in innovation that you fit. Okay. So what we'll talk about today is sort of why here at Stanford, why I chose to be here at Stanford, and hopefully why I can convince you guys to stay at Stanford. And then tell you a little bit about my background and sort of have a different viewpoint of where one could fit in best, rather than the general field of innovation. How to sort of break it into little pieces, say that's where I think I fit in best. Okay. Perhaps pediatric cardiology device development. Okay. So I am a cardiology fellow, and so my biases are in cardiovascular medicine. I really like medical device development stuff. I love taking care of patients. And so all this stuff that you see up on the board here, these are various devices that come up at Stanford over time, which makes this place real special for me. So the difference between here and a few other places I've been at academically is really, you can feel it. If you're in the hospital, if you're talking to people, if you have an idea and if you want to develop it, there's a lot of support for it. It's less shunned, it's more creative. And so a lot of people stick around here who are like-minded, okay? So a lot of these devices have sort of set the field of cardiovascular medicine as we know it today. So the intellectual property drawings, which are on the left and right, sort of developed by Paul Yock, who's the head of the biodesign program here and is a legend in cardiovascular medicine, really sets how we do everything in the cath lab today, okay? Patch recently came out of BioDesign, the ventricular assist devices in the middle, RV biopsy devices, all this stuff, everything came from here. This doesn't exist anywhere else. So for me, that's why I stuck around for so long. Okay? I really think something is in the water. So my experience is where I came from and where I am now. And if you guys have any questions about any of it, I'm happy to sort of dive into more details. I'm Armenian. I was born in Iran, and my parents immigrated out of the country back in '86. We ended up by a few other countries living in Canada, grew up on the East Coast and West Coast, and switched sort of up to 20 schools. But the things that were constant in my life were a lot of sports and really liking academics. Okay, so I grew up in Canada. These are various things that I mentioned. My dad builds piano, so I always tinkered a lot. So these things kind of affected what I wanted to do when I grew up. And all this ended up to sort of my professional development. So my background, I did undergrad at UBC, where I'm from, in Vancouver. Then I did a master's degree in health policy and an MBA at Oxford in the UK. Then I did med school here, and then residency here, residency at UCSF, and fellowship here at Stanford as well, in cardiology. Along the way, I worked at a stent company, and I worked as a healthcare consultant at McKinsey for a little bit over a year. I was an orthopod for a while, sort of changing back and forth, so you don't necessarily have to be a pediatric cardiologist, you might change your mind once in a while. And I worked at the World Bank and the American Enterprise Institute, various other places. All this led to, for me, device development. Okay, for you it might lead to something else, but for me, all this led to where I think I fit best. And this started in development of endotracheal tube, which we developed and sold and so forth. And then what I've been working on the last couple of years, which is sort of cardiac type devices. Okay, and the wonderful part of this is that the support I get for this here at Stanford is unlike anywhere else. Okay, funding, mentorship, development, everything, whatever you need, you can do. Okay? That's what I find anyway. So that being said, okay, we all have various ways to divide things, okay? So let's say you're interested in education, you come to undergrad, but some of you are biology majors, some of you are pharma majors, some of you are sort of more inclined towards economics. So you pick a subset of where you think you belong, okay? To innovation, it's this massive field, but there's no real subsets for it in my perspective. What I found is as I went through the process, as I got further and further along, and I'm not that far along as of yet, things got more and more specific, okay? So right now I can tell you my interests are in early stage medical device development, taking care of patients, and I'm not really interested in sort of large trials, but I'm interested in animal trials and first-in-man clinical trials. Pretty specific, right? Took a while to get there. What I want to give you guys today is an approach to it which sort of takes this big field of innovation and makes it a little bit smaller, okay? So this is a bad model. I'm going to start off by saying that. But you can use it. I do, okay? But I use this retrospectively. One approach to innovation is I could say, all right, am I interested in diagnostics or am I interested in therapeutics? Do you like doing stuff or do you like diagnosing stuff? All right, so let's say I'm interested in therapeutics. I made that choice. Then the question is, am I interested in medical devices? Do you like to tinker? Are you interested in things you can hold and feel? Are you more interested in pharmaceuticals or biotech? And then you go, okay, I'm interested in med devices because I like playing with stuff. And I like therapeutics. Okay, so you're halfway there. The next question is, are you really more innovative and more creative, or do you like to be in a more regimented area? With that, you can get to, I like mid-stage stuff, I like early-stage stuff. So with all this, and you can focus your overall resources, right? To say, all right, I like early-stage med device development. I only like focusing on therapeutics. So these are folks I'm going to talk to. This time I'm going to develop my career. That makes sense? All right. So we have personality types, right? Mine is an INTJ, based on Myers-Briggs. It's not the greatest model, but it works. Some people use it. My organ system type is cardiovascular.
Yeah, what does it mean? INTJ.
It means you're an introvert, firstly. It means that...
What introvert means.
I'm sorry?
Tell them what that means.
Okay, so extrovert versus introvert. I'm going to throw it out to you guys. What's the difference?
Because obviously he's a very outgoing guy. He'd say he was an introvert.
Yeah, so this makes me tired. Sitting at home and having a beer makes me happy. So in this sense,
So
it
an
gives me
introvert
energy.
draws comfort from being by themselves, relaxing. An extrovert needs external validation, and they want people to play back to them. This all comes from Carl Jung. Okay, N versus S.
So sensitivity.
N is for more imagination. You want to visualize, you want to see the future. S is more about detail. So a lot of artists, musicians, etc., they're very into detail. Whereas a person who's an innovator is always thinking of the future, the vision. Right?
And then T
T versus
Thinking.
P.
versus feeling. Okay.
Feeling, yeah, T versus feeling. A thinker is rational.
So this model,
This
Is
is
it
a
T?
fascinating model.
but a feeling person would say, just feel out the way imagination or
In your
innovation
gut.
is, and in your gut, make that sort of gestalt decision.
Yeah. And then J versus P. This is the one that causes the most problems, and I had this test when I was at Elsa my first year, and I was an ENTJ. I think now I'm more an INTJ. You flip as time goes on. But a J is a person who wants to come to a decision. They want to just make the decision, take the risk, whatever happens, let's just go for it. A P is a person who never wants to decide anything.
The wait and see approach.
Yeah. let's see, there's a risk involved, and those two clash a lot. So, interesting that you're an INTJ.
So that's me, and I went through, deciding what part of the body I like working on, because unfortunately you can't do all of it. There's something I still struggle with, but you can't do all of it. So I found that the thing I found most fascinating was the heart stuff, and so that's why I decided to focus on it. And like you, yeah, so I'm not good at these decisions, okay? I actually decide and go for it and sometimes regret it afterwards. So when I was in med school, I decided I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon because all my friends were doing it. Right, it sounds ridiculous, right? All your friends are doing it, and the people I hung out with were doing it. All the sort of people who are in sports were doing it, and there was a lot of devices in the nation. I was like, oh, I can tinker, there's hammers, there's tools, and so then I did it, and I hated it. It just wasn't for me. Okay, so the hard stuff, the thing that makes it for me most exciting is that it's kind of dynamic all the time. There's sort of outpatient, long-term preventative stuff. There's also inpatient, acute life and death stuff, and it's dynamic. So you got to be able to think about fluid mechanics a lot. To me, that's really exciting. Some of my colleagues who decide to go into, for example, rheumatology, dermatology, they have some other things that they find really exciting. So it